going on, Wall, Texas? Welcome to episode 70 of season 5 of Talking Throws podcast, Texas style. I'm Coach Jason.
And I'm Coach Janelle.
And we are Throws coaches with the track club, the Thorn Factory. You can go check our bios out on thethornfactory.com. Also, to just remind everybody that we have some coaches looking for teams for this summer. Coach Smith, West at the Thorn Factory, is looking to build a team for the summer. He's outside of the Weatherford, Texas area, so his contact information is on the site. So reach out to him if you're in that area looking to get some expert coaching. He also handles our multi-sports and a lot of our javelin throwing as well. Coach Jarvis is east at the Thorn Factory. He's out of the South Dallas, DeSoto, and even the Mesquite, Sunnyvale area. If you're in one of those areas and looking to get some expert coaching for glide, shot put, or even discus, reach out to Coach Jarvis. And our newest addition is Morgan Knight Performance and Performance. He is out of Abilene, Texas. He was an All-American thrower at Abilene Christian. His information is on the site as well. So if you're in that greater West Texas area, Odessa, Midland, maybe even Lubbock, reach out to Coach Knight and he will help you out. We want to thank our sponsors for season 5. Without them, we can't do what we do. We appreciate their support. Texas Track and Field Coach Association, ttfca.org. For everything latest in the news for Texas Track and Field. If you're looking for summer meets, if you're trying to figure out the regional schedules coming up for UIL for the state of Texas, if you're wanting to know records for shot and disc or hammer or javelin or anything like that, not necessarily hammer in the state of Texas, but it's all listed on that site. So go check out ttfca.org. Also, fourthrows.com. Our quality implements price right. Go to fourthrows.com. Use the code TALKINGTHROWS10 to get 10% off. You can find hammer handles, hammer wires, weight throws, hammer bags, gloves, cages, and rings, all on fourthrows.com. They sell hammers and javelin and weights just like they sell shot puts and discs. So use the code TALKINGTHROWS10 to get 10% off. Porta-Circle, making throwing more accessible. Go to Porta-Circle to use code TALKINGTHROWS10. If you're up in the north and have some bad weather, this is a great tool to use in a gymnasium or in a driveway, in a garage, anything to help you get the extra reps and give you an advantage over your competition. Porta-Circle.com. Use code TALKINGTHROWS10. Ready Up Athletic Development, ran by Zach Phillips. His cell is 512-507-8347. You can follow him on Instagram and Facebook, or go to his website, readyupad.com. If you're looking for individual team lessons, Olympic lifting or powerlifting, he's the man to go to in the greater Austin area. That's Ready Up Athletic Development. And our favorite discus, a new way to look at the discus for getting distance, Fiber Sports Discus. 2Ks right there. So I know a lot of people have been using them. There's actually a really cool video on YouTube now with Turner Washington. So go check that out using the Fiber Sports Discus. So he is on board using that Fiber Sports Discus. So look for some big marks coming from Turner Washington. And then you can go to fibersports.com. And you can also find the Fiber Sports Discus at fourthrows.com, and just remind everybody to use that code TALKINGTHROWS10 to get 10% off. Remind too that we have a YouTube channel, so be sure to go give us a thumbs up or thumbs down to that YouTube channel as well. Today's guest is currently the throws coach at Texas A&M Commerce in Commerce, Texas. In 1980, he was the Olympic sprint and hurdle coach for the Saudi Arabian Federation. He has also served as head coach for Wayland Baptist, Texas A&M Kingsville, Stephen F. Austin, and he's also a certified life coach. He is a graduate of University of Texas in 1972, where he served as a student assistant coach under Coach Price and Coach Patterson. Please welcome to the podcast, Mr. Glen Sefcik. Glen Sefcik, sorry.
Sounds good.
So Glen, tell us, you got back into coaching. You're at Texas A&M Commerce. Why did you get back into coaching? And then second part of that is what's going on with your throws program at Texas A&M Commerce?
Well, it's a great question. I was retired from, obviously my last coaching job and also a leadership position that I had with True Growth Associates. We were doing some leadership training. And so I retired, but I had that urge to get back into coaching. Started working with a couple of athletes in the Corpus Christi area, specifically Gregory Portland, and started just working with some high school kids and started working with them, helping them develop. And I really decided I really missed coaching, wanted to get back into it. And as luck would have it, Texas A&M Commerce lost their throws coach due to a transfer. He took another job, an academically related job.
Okay.
And Coach Light and Coach Pincock, who I knew obviously from years ago, said that they needed someone to step in. So I took over that position last year, right around Texas Relays time.
Okay,
and,
so about a year, a little over a year.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I finished out the season, and fortunately, I inherited some fantastic athletes, and we had some success last year. And then, since the job was open, they hired me full time this last August.
Oh wow! Okay, good. Now, are you working with I can't even talk today. The boys and the girls?
Yes, I got both programs.
Okay.
I think you've had maybe Josh Boateng on before with the podcast.
Yeah.
He's still working with us. He was second at the NCAA Division II Nationals last year.
Okay.
And then Joe Brown, who won the Division II Nationals before COVID, is also training with us. So
okay.
Joe threw over 60 meters last year in the discus, qualified for the Olympic trials, and he and I went up to Oregon and watched him compete there. And Josh is still training with Grenade. Possibly, hopefully, he's going to be going to the Commonwealth Games here this summer.
Wow.
And then we've got two javelin throwers that just made the provisional standard, or actually the qualifying standard for D2 in the javelin, and that's two kids that were All-Americans last year that I was able to work with. So we've got a great group of athletes. We've got a good program established, and we've got some other young freshmen that are really improved and are just getting better every week.
Wow. Okay. Now y'all are moving up to Division 1A in the Southland, right?
That's correct. And fortunately for me and actually Coach Light, I was at Stephen F. Austin and he was at Southwest Texas when they went from Division 2 to Division 1. So both of us have pretty much experience as it relates to that transition. And so we're excited. We're looking forward to possibly moving back into the Southland and getting opportunity to be very competitive with that group, with that conference.
Got it. Now, will that start in the fall?
It's actually going to, yes. It should start with cross country next year. Actually, I think officially we start like in July, and
okay.
So we start having meetings, I guess, with out of season meetings, but everything should be done and finalized by the fall semester.
Wow. Okay. So that being said, is there expansion of scholarships? I'm guessing. Are you on the road recruiting? Are you looking for more throwers currently?
Yes, we are. We will get some additional funding, and we are looking obviously and recruiting immediately. Kind of shifted our gears. Obviously, for Division 1, a lot of the kids that we had in Division 2 that we were recruiting were over age, so we've kind of had to go back and revisit some of those opportunities, and I've actually referred a couple of those athletes to other programs, since we're not going to be able to have them because of their eligibility requirements.
Oh, really?
So, yeah. So we're looking forward to getting some new kids, getting to the point to where we have an opportunity to really looking at a lot of walk-ons for this first year.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, I'd like to do that because in our throws, and we've got one thrower that's a football player, so we're looking for those dual sport people.
Okay.
When I was at Stephen F. Austin with Jim Hess, he was extremely helpful with the football team. So when we made that transition from D1 2 to D1, a lot of the football players, helped us out tremendously.
Okay.
And so that's kind of what we're hoping Coach Bailiff and his staff will recruit well with us and go forward in that direction.
I'm sure. So is for people that aren't familiar with Texas A&M Commerce, what's a couple of the most popular studies of education field? Is it like nursing? Is it kinesiology? Is y'all have a strong engineering department?
Yes, obviously, the education piece. Many of our alumni are coaches out in the field right now, so that's something that we really are proud of. Also, the nursing program is one of the best, and then we've just really increased our agricultural department. That's going to be funded, I think, very heavily from basically from the college system with Chancellor Sharp, I think. So we're looking to really improve not only the athletic programs but the academics. And fortunately for me, I've had a lot of experience. I was at one point national chairman for coaching education for USA Track, and I've been kind of in a research mode for many years, and I've got with our human performance department, and we're actually doing some research studies on biomechanics using our we call it Dari Motion, which is software platform that measures angles and stress and things of that nature, and we're hoping to publish that and have that for this summer at a seminar.
So are you looking to get a grant off of that?
Yes, we are actually. I've reached out to a couple of corporate companies. We've got money. You can pencil in the date right now, save the date. It's going to be Monday, July 11th. And it will start probably around 11 in the morning. And hopefully it will be 3 or 4 hours. We've got a keynote speaker. I don't know if you know Harry Mara, who is committed to us to do the keynote speech, which he was the coach for the gold medalist in Ashton Eaton in the last year. Yeah. So he's going to be a part of that. We have 2 professors that are going to work with our research, and one of those is the biomechanics, and the other one is actually the dimensional hierarchy, because we put together a psychological portion of that as well. And then the final part of the seminar is going to be a panel discussion with several of it's in conjunction with the Thorpe Cup, which is the decathlon heptathlon, USA versus Germany. So those coaches will be in attendance as well. So we're excited about it. And it's going to be in our downtown campus right next to the St. Mark's, where the track and field event will be held. So we're looking forward to that. It's in its early stages, but we've made a commitment that it's going to happen.
And what's the dates again?
It'll be July 11th. It's a Monday.
11th.
Yeah. And we'll get the word out. We're encouraging all coaches, athletes, if they want to attend. We've got a capacity of about 100 and 150 maybe. So we're going to close the registration off after about 150. But hopefully we're going to really have an opportunity to have the elite athletes. These are the best in the world. So we're really trying to put together a showcase event.
Now, is there a place that they can go and register and stuff? And is there a website or something they can go, or is it just kind of walk up and register?
It's going to be a website, and it'll be through our human performance department.
Okay.
So what we're doing is obviously, Texas Track and Field Coaches Association and some other associations, that we're going to try to reach out to advertise and get the word out to the coaches, so that we'll have plenty of time.
Okay, good. Now, will they be refreshments or anything there as well? Because you know how we like to eat. So.
Well, we're working on it.
Maybe we get some
that's
barbecue.
yeah.
So,
Well, you got the Germans coming. You got the Germans coming to town, so
exactly.
there's probably going to be some Shiner beer around. So we'll
There
see.
you go. We'll definitely be there for sure.
Yeah.
Hey, you said something about your walk-on. Will y'all have standards? Do you share with us? Do you have a standard for marks that kids, if they want to come to Texas A&M Commerce, is there standards for walk-ons?
Actually, there is. I mean, I think if they were to look at the qualifying standards, even for Division II, that would be kind of the marker right around that area. So, for an example, I think, probably in the women's events, if the around 40 meters, something like that for the discus, and 11 or 12 meters for the shot put. But it's kind of what we call a recruited walk-on.
Yeah.
So if people will fill out their questionnaires, we're following up on that.
Okay.
When they go to our website, they can fill out the questionnaire, and we'll get to them immediately and find out what the opportunities are. And because of the transition, obviously we're looking at a lot of the athletes will possibly be on academic help, as well as Pell Grant and things of that nature. So, we'll try to soften the expenses through the academic side of it as best we can.
Gotcha. Now, how far is Commerce from like Dallas? Just to give people an idea, is it a couple hours? How far is it?
No, it's actually 45 minutes from Rockwall, right there at the edge, right at the at the lake there. Right. So we're not far at all from Dallas. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Now, what's the student population there at Texas A&M Commerce?
We've got approximately about 11,000, I would say. Okay. Of course, with the COVID thing, you never know. But as far as on-ground folks, it's a great campus. I mean, because the size of the city, there's a lot of activities that the university provides for our students. Okay. And so they just do a lot of great things. And our recreation department is fantastic, and we get a lot of opportunities for things that happen on the campus that students really seem to flock to. So it's an exciting part of the college experience.
Awesome. Now, from a throwing aspect, how many rings you got? Do you got a beautiful hammer cage? I've seen those facilities. Tell us about them.
Well, right now, I mean, it's a great place. We've got 2 discus rings, one with the hammer and a cage as well. So it's a dual facility. Great shot put ring, and we have our own throwing center near the actually the softball complex. Okay. The track is obviously in the football stadium, but there are plans, from what I understand, that they're going to build us a new track. We just don't know when that's going to happen. But if it does, then we'll have an all-inclusive track with the throwing area, located in the stadium. So we're looking forward to that happening soon.
And I've noticed y'all done something than you've done in previous years, where y'all actually hosted a high school meet this year, right?
We did. We had about, I would say there was 10 to 12 schools that came, and we had a great chance. Matter of fact, I saw a couple of athletes that we basically can recruit, I think, because we're obviously looking for those walk-ons, and a couple of them showed very good interest in our university. So we've been working on them as well.
Now, y'all have a regional meet coming up for 4A, right? As well.
We do. Yes, we do. It'll be the regional. We had it last year, and this year obviously is a continuation of that. Athletes are getting back into it because the COVID thing hit everybody hard. And,
yeah.
I think a lot of athletes are really starting to mature and getting really much better because of the urgency of getting back to competition and the excitement that's held up with being out of it for so long.
Yeah. What's your perspective of, you've been in Texas for a lot of time. What's your perspective of what's going on currently, just with the throws on the boys and girls side? because I was asked that because in the past you've seen some numbers kind of drop, and you think it's not becoming popular, but this year, man, there's been a lot of big marks, especially on the girls' side. What's your feeling? Is track and field becoming popular again?
I really think it is. I think there's a lot more. The social media thing has really made a big difference. I think that when kids are starting to post things on Instagram and wherever else, I think that starts to kind of create some type of motivation and some inspiration from kids out there. And so I think that's helped. And then one of my former All-American shot putters at Stephen F. Austin, GF Watkins, developed a throws camp, and we've been having that for the last 3 or 4 years, and we've had numbers increase every year. We started with I think 10 or 12 3 years ago, and now they're up to about 25 or 30. And so I think that's the word's getting out. And again, social media, it's a curse sometimes, but also it might be could be
where's this camp posted at?
Oh, just all over. Just
okay.
We look at we look at Instagram, we look at some of the social media areas to recruit. Actually, a lot of kids put their performances on Instagram.
Yeah, for sure.
Facebook. So we actively look at those and reach out to them from that perspective, from that platform.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, cool. Thanks for answering that. So let's take a step back. You retired there for a while. What were you doing, that initially led up to that retirement?
Well,
walk us through your resume.
Yeah. Well, there's about 3 or 4 different careers in my
exactly.
life. So, yeah. The latest one that I just retired from was a leadership program developed by one of my teammates at the University of Texas, Bird Baggett, and his partner, a retired 3-star general, Lawson Magruder, called True Growth Associates. And we had a 6-year run with the United States military for their battalion and brigade commanders once a month up at Fort Leavenworth at the School for Command Preparation. So we were training colonels and lieutenant colonels, command sergeant majors, in leadership skills. So we did that and also, in addition to that, there were some corporate clients that we had as well. Everything from State Farm to, Farmers Insurance and a lot of different Fortune 500 companies. Okay. So I was doing that for about 6 years, 6 or 7 years. And, that essentially at one point, once the Army contract ran out, then we essentially almost all of us retired at that point.
Okay.
From the leadership opportunities.
Okay. Now, this training, was it like very hands-on training, or was it kind of like a leadership mental approach?
It was actually about a 3-day seminar.
Okay.
And it went from essentially, it's a survey it's a 360 evaluation. So the survey itself was about 35 questions. We would send it to these brigade commanders. Then they in turn would send their copy to their supervisor, which is either general or lieutenant colonels below them, their subordinates. And so we would get a 360 picture of 7 different, I guess you would say, items of performance and leadership. And so they would be numbered as, from 1 to 6, for an example, in a category. So let's say it might be respect, or it may be trust. And so then we would look at those scores, and then there was an opportunity for people to fill in, some narrative and say, I really like Colonel so-and-so, I'd go to war with him at any time, things of that nature.
Oh, wow.
And so we would sit down with them in the classroom, go over the core values, and each student would develop a core purpose. They'd develop 5 core values, and then they would develop behaviors that would support those behaviors or core values. I'm sorry. And so then my job was to sit down with them one-on-one and go over the 360 evaluation with them and say, here's what the mirror looks like for you. Here's your leadership profile. And so that was that was very rewarding, obviously, to be able to deal with the military at that level. So
have you ever tried to implement that with any of the, like, your team athletic settings, like your track and field or some of the, any of that type of thing, or even a football team?
well, we've just finished kind of a leadership thing with the previous, not my group, but not our group, that Mr. McMurray brought in.
Okay.
But what we're doing specifically with the throwers right now is that dimensional hierarchy that you had mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
I have created a similar psychometric tool to measure the 9 different dimensions. And so that's one of our research projects that we're going to use at the seminar in July to show our results of that, from a perspective of, holistic approach, mental preparation, inspiration, things of that nature. And so we have a tool now that we can measure it. And it was based very similar to the True Growth Associates that I worked with in developing that particular psychometric tool.
So getting back to the dimensional hierarchy, we'll just go ahead and jump into it. Like, were you brainstorming one day and said, hey, I want to develop, I'm thinking about putting this in this kind of piece of the puzzle? Tell us a little bit more detail of how you came up with that and what that's about.
Great question. I was actually part of a psychology committee for the USA Track and Field Committee back in the early stages of developing the curriculum for level 1 and level 2.
Mm-hmm.
And so there were, I guess, about 7 of us that were at Colorado Springs at the Olympic Training Center. And we started brainstorming, obviously, about the curriculum and, how coaches coach and how do you prepare them mentally and psychologically, et cetera. And at the same time, I was teaching at Stephen F. Austin. I was teaching a freshman course that kind of covered that, basic 101 freshman, introductory course. And I was dealing with the dimensions of health.
Okay.
And so I said, when I looked at athletics, I said, there's more than just the dimensions of health. There were about 4 or 5 of them.
Yeah.
And so I started to brainstorm, like you said, and came up with 9 different dimensions that essentially we can quantify and now measure so that we can see how that's going to affect your performance. Hopefully, not only in athletics, but just in academics as well as just general in life.
Yeah. Out of the 9, is there like a rating scale that you do?
Yes, there's 2 different psychometric tools. One of them is a survey, much like an assessment, like the one that we use for True Growth, where it's a narrative, and it would say, for an example, during competition, the athlete tends to have great anxiety, blah, blah, blah. You would measure that from 1 to 10. So if they're really real anxious, feel a lot of stress, they might score 9 or 8 or something like that. And obviously we keep it all confidential, but then we go back and look at those scores and see which dimensions really seem to affect performance, whether it's the physiological dimension, training, or maybe it's the social aspect, teamwork, or maybe it's inspiration or, intellect. I mean, there's a lot of different things to look at to see how we can holistically approach the athlete and go from that in that direction. Now, I just created the psychometric tools about 2 years ago, but I had used the same concept back when I was at Stephen F. Austin.
Okay.
It wasn't quite that sophisticated. It was more of a lecture and one-on-one meetings with athletes, and we would set goals in each one of these dimensions, and then cover them from, time to time.
Wow. So did you put this down in a book form or something where people can buy it or get it?
Well, I did actually. A friend of mine, a guy named Dan Millman, who's the Peaceful Warrior. I ran across him many years ago. He had written a book that became a movie with Nick Nolte. And so I had talked to him about the possibility of trying to put this book together. And he gave me his editor and said, why don't you use Nancy Gormley, who was the editor. And I did put together a book about the whole process. It was published about, I'd say 6 years ago. But I've taken it off the market because I'm trying to redo it and come up with a little bit better scenario. It's not a how-to book. Nancy actually convinced me into writing more or less a fable, a novel, and it's about a professor and two of his students that basically travel the world, and he's teaching them this dimensional hierarchy as they go along. So a little bit easier to put together, in your mind rather than, just a how-to book.
Wow. Would do me a favor. Would your next book be how your wife can be a better glide shot put coach for you?
Yeah. Oh, definitely, for sure. We could work on that one for case study.
Yeah, for sure. Now when we hang up, she's gonna punch me.
Yeah,
for sure. I just so you have a strong mental approach with everything you do, right?
pretty much. That's my core values. First, I guess, would be the five that I developed would be discovery, knowledge, wisdom, integrity, and legacy. And so those are kind of the core values that I approach pretty much everything that I do, any kind of career that I'm working with.
Wow.
And I love research. I love to discover things that are new, things that I can refine and use my analytical skills that I hope I have, and getting some, progress for some people to reach some of their goals. And, my core purpose is pretty much to help others manifest their dreams into reality. And so we try to set that out there and, visualize what we're doing and hopefully mentally prepare and then, compete.
Wow.
That's awesome.
That is amazing. That is really, really cool.
Hi, my name is Meredith Mcgee, and my father is the founder of Porta Circle. We created Porta Circle in order to make throwing more accessible so that you can truly train anywhere. Growing up in Rochester, weather was often a roadblock toward training, and having the Porta Circle was a lifesaver for both the indoor and outdoor season. Circles start at $149 and go to our website to learn more. www.porta-circle.com. Porta Circle, making training convenient.
So, all right, let's get back into Glenn, the track coach. I'm joking. Yeah, they are together, but you've had a lot of amazing stops as a head coach, and you coached at Stephen F. Austin. You were at Texas Kingsville, but Wayland Baptist, I believe, as well.
Right. Yeah.
Just walk us through those experiences and stuff. How did you juggle, being a head coach in some of those situations where I'm sure you had to coach a certain event as well, right?
Well, I was the entire coaching staff.
Okay.
And I fired myself several times from different.
Kept coming back to work, huh?
Yeah, that's the problem. But yeah, back in the day when I first started, we didn't have the budgets. I didn't have a full-time assistant at all at any place that I had.
Okay.
Well, I take it back. I did at Wayland Baptist. I had a men's assistant and a women's assistant. But all of the other ones, I had a graduate assistants. They would stick with me for a couple of years and then move on. And, and at the time, I kind of complained, to myself. I said, man, I wish I had some more help. But then in retrospect, we had a reunion just couple of years ago with the Stephen F. Austin group. And I said, I'm glad that I didn't have assistant coaches because I got to know each one of these kids. And so I, pretty much coached the whole everything. And, it was a full day of, lifting weights at 7 a.m. in the morning or 6 and, afternoon practices coming at 2 or 3 different time slots.
Wow.
So it was a busy day for me, but
yeah. Is there always an event that you kind of favored in your head coaching experience? Were you a shot and disc, or did you like the jumps? Which of the running events did you kind of favor?
Well, the decathlon, obviously, and the heptathlon were not so much the hep because I didn't really coach the women back in the day, but decathlon was, I think, probably the most intriguing to me. And I was very fortunate to meet several of the gold medalists and I worked with the Visa Gold Medal program with Harry Mara and Fred Samara back when we started the Visa program, which was very productive with Dan O'Brien and some folks that were products of that program.
When you're recruiting for a decathlete, I'm curious, what do you look for? Because most high school kids don't look at themselves as being a decathlete. They, especially in the state of Texas, they're going to be, I'm a baseball player that plays football, or I'm a multi-sport athlete. There's not many people go, hey, I'm a track and field athlete.
Well, that's a great point. One of my he made All-American for me. He was from a Class A school at the time. Robert Lee, this guy named Ron McCowan. And, of course, you can run, 3 events, and you can throw, or compete in 2 a field or 3 running or whatever it was back then. And he did that. He was a 5 event guy. And that's how he got interested in the decathlon out of high school. Okay. So we kind of look for that, size is important, obviously, because you've got the hurdles, you've got that major issue. You're looking for athletes that have other sport ability, that as far as, agility and things of that nature and jumping agility, I think is something that we look at. And, so we're constantly looking, when we go to track meets to see if there's a potential young man or young lady out there that might want to do more than just the one event.
For sure. Now, you went to University of Texas, right? And you graduated from there.
Yes.
Now, you were a student assistant. So was that something I think it was Coach Price?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Is that something they kind of put you in charge? Was the multi-sport athlete and the decathlon and stuff? Is that where you kind of favored that and grew up, coaching that?
Mm-hmm. Actually, that's pretty much what happened. By my junior year, Coach Price and Coach Miller, they were the only 2 coaches at the time. Back then, we didn't have, the full complement for coaches that we have these days. So Coach Miller had the jumps and Coach Price had the sprinters. And then we had a distance coach, for the cross country. So I ended up helping with the high jump, the pole vault, and we had a decathlete. So I was out with them at practice for those 3 events.
Oh, wow.
And I was able to actually Coach had me take the teams to a couple of meets, almost by myself with the team while they were out recruiting or doing something else. So Coach Price really was good to me, and trusted me with the opportunity to help learn my trade as eventually going to be a coach myself.
Yeah. Was it something you learned by trial and error? Because you're only a couple of years older than the people you're coaching.
Right. Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I studied a lot of film, and I was fortunate enough to have some mentors. Coach Price would help me, and Coach Patterson at the time when I was a freshman. They would kind of, and essentially Coach Patterson said, "Oh, why don't you record every workout that we do in a journal, and that way you'll have that for the rest of your coaching career." And that's exactly what I did. And so every workout I would record it. I would, study it, see, my research, my analytical
Yeah.
mind. I would start trying to figure out how things worked. And so that's what got me started. And then really what was another thing that really happened that was great. And I tell everybody this, it's kind of a joke. I learned everything from Jack Daniels, but not the whiskey, but Dr. Jack Daniels, who was one of the foremost, I guess you would say, physiologists in altitude training. And I was his lab assistant in the lab. So I was helping him when he would do his research studies in Gregory Gym down there at the university. So that was another opportunity. And that was really where the analytical things got started with Coach Daniels.
Really?
And, yeah.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Yeah, he was measuring, VO2 max and, teaching me, basically the protocols of how we collected the air or the gas, and the expired gases and stuff. And then I would help measure, those different things in the equipment that we had.
Wow.
So,
And so Coach Price, they just kind of trusted you, said, "Here you go, young fella. Here's the keys to the automobile."
pretty much, yeah, they were, really, I think, pretty satisfied with me. And, it led to a lot of great things. Obviously, I ended up, being kind of the associate assistant to the Texas Relays director, which was Cleveland.
Mhm.
And so I was kind of his right-hand man during the relays. And then I eventually became part of the games committee when we had the games committee. And so I served on that for over 20 something years. And so a lot of those things. And here's another good story. Back in the day when they first started with AccuTrack, University of Texas bought one. Well, guess who learned how to use it? It was me.
That was your
So,
job.
yeah, so I ended up taking it to a couple of meets. I think I took it to the Kansas Relays and operated it there for the Kansas Relays. And I think once in Wichita, Kansas, I did it as well. So I got my indoctrination into automatic timing back in the 70s. So
Wow. You can honestly say you were probably doing stuff, back in those time periods as a young man that, is very common today. You kind of almost could say you might kind of led the charge for doing, the electrical charge or some of the other research you were doing at University of Texas.
well, and it was by accident, but it probably did lead to a lot of things. I mean, I worked with Jack Balco, who invented the AccuTrack, and we had, at the time, he was using batteries, and I was saying, well, there's some things we can do for recharging batteries rather than, these. And he didn't know that was existing back then. So some little changes that we made on the AccuTrack, I helped Jack with that, and learned a lot about, how those systems work.
Wow.
And it was pretty interesting. It was a lot of fun.
Have you ever done any research on throwing, like glide shot put or rotational shot put?
Well, that's what we're working on now with our human performance department. And of course, over the years with my coaching education experience, I was a level 1, level 2 instructor, and pretty much worked with the sports scientists, that type of thing, over the years. Dr. Tinker Murray and I did some research in physiology when I was at Stephen F. Austin. He was at Southwest Texas. So there's a lot of things that we did. As far as the throws, most all of it I haven't published yet. I'm really working on some with this ground force reaction, net impulse, and rate of force development that we're studying here at the university, and how that relates to the throws. And so that's going to be part of our presentation at this summer.
Really?
With pilots, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow. Wow.
But we've tested all of our throwers, I think, 4 times with this Dory motion system, which is a platform that it pretty much is a biomechanical platform that identifies joint angles, but it also identifies the ankle, knee, and hip absorption, amortization and all that kind of stuff, so that we get a profile, kind of an avatar person that we look at and see how when they first came to school, and then now here at the end, we're going to test them one more time before the conference meet and see how much improvement they've made through our training programs and field.
Cool.
Now, basically, would you want to do that with like professional athletes, like somebody like Ryan Krauser or even Valerie Allman or something like that?
Well, yeah, matter of fact, of course, we've got 3 discus throwers that thrown right at 60 meters. We've tested them. So that's kind of our pilot project.
Wow.
And then I'm working with Dan O'Brien and Drew Fucci with a group called Multi 10-7.
Yeah.
And we're looking at possibly doing some research with them. Again, a lot of it's going to happen in July, we think. At least if we can get some sponsorship, get some things going to bring in these elite athletes and use the tests that we've identified as the pilot projects here at A&M Commerce and see how we can transfer that into the elite programs.
Wow. It all started with Jack Daniels.
Yeah, Jack and Cleveland and Coach Noble at Angelo State was one of my mentors, and it just I've just been blessed by having so many different coaches that influenced my life, and it's time for me to pay back and do what I can do.
So was Dana LeDuc a thrower at Texas when you were down there?
I missed him by 1 year, but he and I coached together at A&M Corpus for a couple of years, and we were roomies there for a couple of years, off and on.
Corpus Christi?
Yeah, we were there for a couple of years.
All right, so you could probably tell some stories on Dana and Robbie Robinson as well.
So yeah, unfortunately, I've got a lot of stories I can't share with everybody.
Well, Robbie didn't want to tell stories with us either. Y'all need to write a memoir book and just.
Well, maybe after we all retired around here,
I gotcha.
Share some of those stories. But,
yeah, I know the cool thing about track and field is the camaraderie of you're being the brotherhood that you meet together for sure, right?
Oh yeah, it's huge, and and I'm a certified strength coach too, so I'm doing some research with that, and talking to Dana all the time. I mean, we communicate a couple of times a week, maybe sometimes as much as 2 or 3 times in a week, and just talking about training or things that we're doing, and it's the opportunity for everybody to kind of bond together and just watch athletes perform. And see, David Hall was one of Dana's grad assistants when he was a strength coach at Texas.
Yeah.
Well, David's daughter is Anna Hall,
the
one that just won the NCAAs, and she's just fantastic. She's a sophomore. And I had David at a training camp at the Olympic Training Center years ago before he was married.
Okay.
And so we're kind of Anna's, I guess, cheering squad, because we try to go to everything that she does and watch her compete and perform and talk to David as well. So
she had a good showing at Texas Relays.
She's wonderful. She's such a great athlete and competitor, and and her mother and dad are just fantastic as far as support and knowledge of track and field. And David was a 3-sport athlete at University of Michigan. Was a quarterback, played basketball, and was a decathlete. So he's quite talented. Yeah.
And so then he came down to University of Texas as a grad assistant.
Yes, he was working with that. Yeah. But then he went into the accounting world, and no longer is dealing with coaching, but he obviously, as a father coach, he understands.
Oh, for sure. So how did you wind up at the University of Texas? Tell us that story.
Well, my brother went there. He was an electrical engineer, and I think valedictorian of his class, and I was always the guy that could never get smart enough to get any of those awards. So I went into sports, right? Try to make it up some other way. But I think that probably the one event that made the difference. It was 1963. I was 13 years old, and I went to the football game, Texas versus Baylor, and that was when they won the national championship. Texas was number 1, Baylor was number 2, and it was 7-0. Texas won the game, and I fell in love with the University of Texas and athletics at that point. And the rest is history. I was always set on going to Texas at that point. So.
Wow. Now you grew up in Wall. Is that where you went to high school?
Yeah.
And stuff?
Yeah. Wall America, as we call it. Yeah.
Small
Yeah.
town.
It's
So were you a track star, football player at Wall?
well, we did everything,
Okay.
even number sense, I guess we had to.
Yeah.
I played all 3. I think I was all district and everything, and of course won the district. I pulled a hamstring at the regional meet and got 3rd in the 200, so I didn't make state. So that was kind of I guess you would say the final blow to my high school career. And then I walked on at Texas actually initially.
Oh, is it on track and field?
Yeah, and
Okay.
Coach Patterson and Coach Price, I trained with them, and it was right at the end of the first semester. We were, I don't know if you remember well, you're probably too young to remember, but the Astrodome track meet, which was the big deal in Houston, we were going to take a team to the Astrodome. And so I decided to overtrain to make sure I was ready. And I pulled a hamstring again, that same one, and pretty much destroyed my career at that point. But it was probably a blessing in disguise, because I ended up then sticking around and working with, with as a manager, and then eventually as a student coach there at the university. So.
Oh, wow. Now, was your mom and dad, were they supportive of you, going into track and field and all that? Tell us about your family.
Yeah, my family, we're farmers, cotton gin owner. And, so we pretty much, farming is what got me my education. I didn't want to sit on that tractor the rest of my life. And,
That's very boring.
Did you listen to country music when you were on the tractor? Because she did.
Yeah.
Yeah, lots of hours on those tractors.
Yeah, so much. I mean, I had a lot of time to think, obviously,
Yes.
being out there by myself. And, I fell in love with sports, like I said. And then my dad was, unfortunately, his father passed away when he was 13. So he had to start farming immediately at that point to survive. And he always wanted my brother and I to get our education, because he didn't get a chance to finish school.
Okay.
And so he he allowed us to make our own decisions and wanted us to get our degree. And he never looked back. He was proud of us for, making our own decisions going forward with our life and our career.
Oh, wow. Okay, cool. What position did you play in football?
I played a little bit of quarterback in the freshman, sophomore year, and then running back the rest of the time. And, for Class B at the time, I think we went 11-2 my senior year at Wall. Played in the regional championship, got beat by Salado, but so we had a good.
It's funny how you remember stuff as a youth. When I remember when I was 12 years old, I was pitching in the state championship game of a little league, and I gave up a home run, and we got beat like 3-2. And I can still remember everything about that game.
Oh, I know. Yeah, every time I go through Salado, I just bow my head. I can't look. I just keep looking forward.
And for sure. So, Giddy, I want to ask you something too. Is how did you become the Olympic coach for Saudi Arabia, the Federation? How did that come about? How did a guy from Wall, Texas, all of a sudden represent Saudi Arabia?
Well, what happened? I was at Eastern New Mexico. I was the head coach there,
Okay.
and I had applied for an assistant's job at the University of Texas El Paso,
Okay.
and that's when Ted Banks was there. And Ted said, "I've got a guy that I'm going to hire, but are you interested? I know that you're looking to move up." And he said Bernie Wagner was looking for coaches to go to Saudi Arabia. And I had actually done some work for Bernie as a state director of that association at the time. And so I reached out to Bernie, and he said, "Yeah, we're looking to hire some coaches." And the next thing I knew, I had an interview in Houston, and there were 9 of us that were selected. And we went over for the 2 year. I was there 2 years. Some of them stayed there for.
What was that experience like, living over there for 2 years?
Well, we thought we could change, 100 years of culture into a group that would understand what training was, and they had. That was very difficult. I mean, we had a hard time. Really, the only time we really got a lot of work done is when we took them out of the country into training camps, so that we would have them in a camp situation, and that's when we did our best coaching at that point.
Wow. So did y'all like break it down by event and stuff like you would like your track and field program, like running a university? Is that how y'all broke it down?
Well, what we ended up doing, there were 2 of us in Jeddah on the west side, 2 in Dhahran, and then the rest of them were in central Riyadh. So we actually had 3 zones, and so we coached, again, almost everything.
Yeah.
Just like a normal coaching situation. So
okay.
That's how we ran things, and then of course we'd come together for the Kingdom Championships, and then take them from there to a camp somewhere before we went to the Islamic Games. Or, at the time we were headed to Moscow, and then of course our favorite friends from Russia invaded Afghanistan, and when that happened, we boycotted the games in '80 and didn't get to go. So that was, a big disappointment.
After all that hard work and dedication and time and stuff.
Exactly. Yeah, that was the tough part. And instead of going to Moscow, we went to the Islamic Games in Turkey. 2 weeks after the military revolution. So we were met with armed guards. There was a curfew. About the 3rd day we were there, being a West Texas kid, I thought I heard thunder, thunderstorm. Well, it happened to be 5 bombs that went off near our hotel. So that was kind of an awakening experience for sure. Machine guns in the stadium, at the portals and everything. So that was pretty interesting.
I'm sure it was. You've had to travel internationally abroad to experience a lot of track and field, haven't you?
But yes, been very fortunate. And I was selected as a delegate to the International Olympic Academy back about 96 or 7. So every 2 years I'd been going to Olympia, Greece, for meetings with that group of the Olympic Academy.
Wow.
So, I got to know, quite a few folks, obviously, from the world involved in the Olympic movement.
I'm kind of curious, what's your perspective of track and field abroad versus what's track and field here in the States?
Well, it's such a club-oriented situation overseas, and it's different. Obviously, universities specialize in one area rather than the holistic thing like we do in the States.
Yeah.
So if you're going to be a coach, you would go to an institute that's where everybody goes to become a coach, rather than just a basic university. And so the team concept is more club against club, city against city, region against region, rather than university against university kind of opportunities.
Okay. and that makes the selection for those athletes that more marketable, versus we have to wait till they get into the university setting, so to speak. Well, they kind of came through that youth program, so to speak.
Yes, they do. And, a lot of my friends that said, yeah, they identified me as a weightlifter when I was in Ukraine as a 14-year-old or something. And, so that was kind of the way that things were done, especially in Eastern Europe.
Yeah.
They would identify these talents early on and then send them to clubs, much like our, teams that we do in the, some of the club teams that like in soccer or gymnastics here in the States, where they send their kids, to those places. So.
What do you think we got to do to grow the popularity of track and field? I asked you, I talked about the numbers earlier in the state of Texas, but just overall, how do we get more people, to do and participate in track and field? What's your opinion on that?
Well, I think the marketing thing, obviously it comes in cycles. The Olympic Games every 4 years, people start to get a little bit more interested in athletics. Now, when I was a youngster, there was very few Olympic sports. I mean, the basic ones were being covered, like gymnastics or track and field or swimming. Well, now you've got all these other different types of Olympic sports, and it's spread out in the entire TV, situation.
Yeah.
So you don't get the coverages that you used to get. I think I pretty much think through education is the only way it's going to happen. I think academically, if we can prove that human performance is something fun to watch, and something that's scientifically, important, I think people would start to be intrigued by that. The strategy, the analytical part of track and field is not pushed like it is in football.
That's true.
Or in basketball. So, if we can, use the strategic approach to track and field, and there's a couple of announcers that do a great job. One of them is Jill Montgomery. She does a great job. And so Dan O'Brien's another one that makes it interesting for you to listen to and say, oh, okay, they know their coaches, they know what kind of training that they did, and, kind of give them, the background of, the athletes.
Yeah.
Like Krauser, like Ryan Krauser, people like that.
Did you see him break? What's your perception of biomechanics of his world shot putter?
Well, I'm very fortunate. Mario Satania and I are very close friends, and Mario worked with Ryan. And matter of fact, I think in February of before Rio, I was up watching him train there in Arkansas, and I was at his training, which was really kind of ironical because it wasn't at the University of Arkansas. They wouldn't let him train there because of insurance or something.
Yeah.
So he was out at a junior high, throwing out of a junior high ring.
Oh, no.
And he had a cone set at the world record. And I got this all on film, by the way.
Uh-huh.
And so he put a cone out at the world record, and I watched him toss about 6 or 7 over the cone. So
wow.
that was a great learning experience.
Was it over the teeter-totter or the tether ball?
Well, pretty much the little football players that were dodging him as they went by, they didn't know who he was, but they knew he was throwing very far.
Yeah.
So.
Well, in you're watching that, what makes him so unique? I know he's a very large man, but what makes him so unique to be able to apply that much power into the ball?
I think a lot of it is this ground force reaction out of the back of the ring, the direction and the weight transfer over to the left, which establishes, the longitudinal axis of the left side of the body.
Uh-huh.
And then he really brings his right side, his right leg is really wide, creating a lot of angular momentum. And he's able to, I call it a torque turn.
Yeah.
He torque turns out of the back efficiently, it sweeps low to the ground, doesn't get much vertical component to his toe off, and stays lower to the ground. And I think lands in almost the perfect position for him to finish the throw.
Yeah.
And so, for key performance indicators, I'm looking at that left foot out of the back of the ring and the weight transfer. That's establishes the whole throw pretty much.
How far do you think he can go?
Well, that's a great question. I think if he's smart enough to know when he's overtraining, I think he builds in enough rest in between what he's doing, which is going to create a longer, opportunity for him to maintain his fitness levels.
Yeah.
Eventually age is going to catch up to him, but I would think he's still got quite a bit left. To put a number on it, who knows? It'd take one throw, as you know.
Yeah.
The Michael Carter throw in high school. I mean, well, if everything hits at the same time and everything just in the perfect world, he could really put another one out there really far. So we'll just have to wait and see.
Yeah. Now I'm sure you're aware that Valerie just broke the American record in the discus again, right?
Yeah. Right.
And I'm sure you've probably seen her firsthand. Now, what's been really cool is her growth as a thrower from, high school, Colorado to Stanford and to what she's been doing now has been pretty amazing, right?
Really has been. And, I watch her quite a bit. I try to get some of our female throwers to emulate some of the things she does.
Uh-huh.
She really, in my opinion, if we can break it down, she uses what we call the kinetic chain or the biokinetic energy probably better than most throwers, where she's coming into a situation to where her upper body is in a nice isometric, or I guess you would call it isometric, but a complete chain of movement, so that when she comes out of the back of the ring, she establishes this great angular momentum with upper and lower body, and then converts it to the end. But that's another thing we're studying, is this biokinetic energy. Peter Thompson has come up with a lot of the latest research on that, and so I'm trying to follow kind of his footsteps and learn more as much as I can about that as well. So.
And you've seen a lot of track. Has there been somebody, track and field, has there been some thrower over the years that you've seen that you really thought, had all the genetic possibilities to throw really, really far, that maybe just not panned out? Either way, we're talking anywhere from Randy Barnes to, Mike Stoltz to Al Feuerbach to even to Michael Carter. Has there been a few that you thought, wow, could have been really something?
Well, I guess in a way, I mean, Mac Wilkins, I kind of make him the poster guy, I guess, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
And everything, I try to look at a lot of the things that he did, and so I was working with the kid from Gregory, Portland, last 2 summers ago before I took the job at Commerce. He was 6'5" and long levers. His dad was a decathlete, and he's the type of kid that's going to really become a great one.
Okay,
but it's going to take him time to
get right.
Yeah,
Hunter Harrison. Yeah.
Hunter Harrison. Yeah.
Yes.
At A&M. So we got him. When I was working with him before COVID hit, I think he threw 177, and then COVID hit, and we were basically, after that, we were throwing out of his garage, his parking lot, into his front yard. So
yeah, of course. For sure.
Yeah. So, and little brother is going to be really good too. Little brother's sophomore, and he threw 159, I think, last week, and 15 foot in the pole vault. So,
oh wow,
a little decathlete on the way. He's just a sophomore. So.
Yeah, for little brother, that's pretty talented as well, for sure. Yeah. All right, last thing. You're a boatman, right?
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
You're sitting in a boat, right?
I am. I'm in my sailboat on Easter weekend.
Nice.
Yeah, just
Where
made
you
a
where
little
you,
trip.
where you docked at?
I'm down in Corpus Christi.
Oh,
And,
okay.
Yeah, my son is the vice president of operations at the aquarium here in Corpus. So I've got a couple of granddaughters, and so I'm going to see them tomorrow, and have some family time during this little break between track and my
Awesome.
daughter's going to graduate from physical therapy school up in Arkansas and on May 14th, and I'm hoping that she'll get involved with some athletic endeavors as well
Wow.
as PT.
Gotcha. So do you keep your boat down there year round?
Yes, yeah,
Okay, nice.
yeah.
What's the farthest you've ever taken it out? Like how many days?
Oh, I think when I sailed it down from Houston, from Kima to Corpus, I think it took us about 4 days, 4 or 5.
Nice.
So
Nice. You didn't take it over to Saudi Arabia and
no, I don't think that I would have been able to even get halfway.
Yeah.
come on, you mean you couldn't get that up the Sabine River, going up to Commerce, on the Red River, they couldn't let you pull that up in
No, the mast had knocked the bridges had knocked the mast off, so I don't think I can.
How big a boat is it?
Well, the first one I had before I got this one was 40 foot, and then this one's 32 foot. So
Wow. So where in all your years did you learn to become a boatman?
actually in the summer, one couple of times off season, a friend of mine, I learned on the lake, just a little sunfish thing, and
Yeah.
got the bug, and then eventually, became, I guess, took lessons and got the captain thing, and decided to. Actually, I lived aboard for many years on the other one.
Okay.
And, yeah, so I lived in it when I was in California, and also here in Texas. I lived on it for
Oh,
what?
nice. Do you do any deep sea fishing as well?
No, just sailing.
Just
I'm
sailing.
not into fishing. No.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, we might have to come visit you in Corpus Christi
Sure, you bet.
for sure. So,
Yep.
well, Ben,
Yep.
thank you so much for being on. We appreciate it. What an amazing story. And just, I want to say thank you for what you've done for track and field, and you giving back and what you're continually doing. You don't have to come back and coach because that's who you are. You're just kind of passing it forward. And I'm sure the people at Texas A&M Commerce appreciate you. And it's reciprocated through your research and all the stuff that you're doing there. So,
Well, it's been fun, and I got a great head coach. Assistant coaches that I'm working with. Coach Bencock is awesome. Coach Light, had many champions, and we got a young kid that Trent Phillips we're helping him, mentoring him, and through cross country and whatnot. So it's been just a joy. And then again, working with the human performance people across the street, it really gives me the motivation to continue on. So it's a lot of fun.
now where's y'all's conference meet at?
It's in Kingsville. It'll be down here in
Okay.
Kingsville.
Okay, when it will be into the May.
Yeah, first week in May, 6th or 7th.
And where will nationals be for y'all?
Grand Valley, Michigan, up
Oh, it
north.
is.
Yeah, where it was last year. So.
Was it okay? Okay. Well, at least y'all get some cooler weather up there then.
Yeah, we do, and we just were ranked number 2 in men in the D2, and number 5 in women. Unfortunately, number 1 in men was WT, West Texas. So the two Lone Star Conference schools are 1 and 2 in the nation right now. So
I would probably, your Lone Star Conference might just be more competitive than maybe what you'll have at nationals, right? Maybe.
yeah, it's pretty close. Yeah, pretty close to being us in West Texas. Of course, Kingsville is always good. Angelo State is very good. They were 4th last year. We were 7th.
Yeah.
So the Lone Star, the top 4 or 5 teams they're pretty salty.
Especially the throws. For the throws in the conference it's going to be unreal.
Yeah, a lot of fun. Yeah.
Oh, sure, for sure, sir. Well, sir, we're good looking stuff. And tell everybody there, thank you so much.
Okay, thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Take care. Thank you.
All righty.
We would like to thank Glenn for being on the podcast. Just what a tremendous person that's giving back to the sport of track and field, and had University of Texas kind of took a chance on him, and allowed him to walk on, and that just kind of catapulted his path and career into track and field, becoming a head coach, coaching international, to doing research, for track and field. And just when I think of him, I think of humanitarian, and I think of giving back to the sport of track and field, and everything he's done has been what a great accomplishment.
Yeah, he's such a student of movement. Student of human performance is what makes him a good coach. He's constantly learning to help his athletes, and all the research and the stuff he was talking about is going to come out on July 11th. It's just to help people understand the physics, dynamics, analytics, whatever dimensions of movement through track and field.
Yeah,
So,
for sure.
That's really cool. We need people who study that. So that's awesome.
For sure. So
It's above my pay grade, but it's pretty cool.
and to develop dimensional hierarchy as well. And being a life coach and just giving back and helping people is just tremendous. And
That leadership thing through the life coach that he did with the military is probably things, he uses with his athletes to help make them better as leaders, and where they're gifted in the, psychology of stress or anxiety and whatever, which is so important to study how you function in those environments.
For sure. And then you can relax on a boat. For sure.
There you go.
So
Very good.
we'll see y'all down the road. Thank you so much.
All right, we want to thank our sponsors, TTFCA, Texas Track and Field Coach Association. Go to their website and see all that's going on as we're ending up high school districts and areas and regions and moving into the state track meet. You can see some of the top throwers' marks in the state, jumps, runs, all those things that you enjoy. Check those things out. Go to fourthrows.com where you can get lots of quality implements. Use the code TalkingThrows10 to get 10% off. Porta Circle, it's probably gonna start getting hot. We talk about it being cold, but as it gets hot, you can throw one in your garage. You've got some AC in there, and keep working on your technique with that Porta Circle. Get lots of reps in. So go to porta-circle.com. Use the code TalkingThrows10. And Ready Up AD, Ready Up Athletic Development. When you're in Austin, if you're on the state track meet here in about a month or so, go check them out at readyupad.com. And Zach Phillips, follow them on Instagram and Facebook.
Hello, Talking Throws Texas podcasters. I'm Bruce Caldwell. I'm here today to introduce the FiberSport Discus. Yes, many of you thought I only made great vaulting poles. I have been bringing quality discuses to the throwers' hands for over 40 years. First as Cantabrian USA representative, then for the past 10 years as the Nelco discus distributor. I introduced the yellow plated discus for the plastic's best durability. If your FiberSport discus breaks, we replace it. Our studies have reached into the science of using a wind tunnel and adding microchips to the discus to find the spin, the gravity, the flight stability of the discus. We have found it's not about rim weight anymore. It's more about creating a balanced stability to allow the discus to fly and surf the wind. Our new FiberSport discus is made to be selected to fit your needs, no matter the weather, no matter the conditions. Check out our discus selection guide at fibersportdiscus.com and find a dealer in your area that sells our fine product. Thank you, Jason and Janelle, for allowing me to talk with your listeners on Talk and Throws Texas Style.
And I could check out the Throwing Factory. Doing lessons, got Coach Kai, got Coach Jarvis, got Coach Knight, Coach Kai Smith, sorry, Coach Jarvis, Coach Knight, doing lessons, got us doing lessons.
We have the shopping page. So people,
that's the shopping. It's
yeah,
the shopper.
yeah, for that.
Shops.
Cool hats, new apparel. Go check those out on the shopping page as well. And then remind everybody about Lifting DFW Human Performance. It's Lifting DFW is a mobile fitness station that can help your performance for the various roles and tasks, whether you're a 5-star athlete, a stay-at-home mom, a middle-aged father, or a youth that loves sports. Go to that website, liftingdfw.com.
Awesome. Check us out on YouTube.
On YouTube.
I actually showed some of my athletes today that I had a podcast and a YouTube channel, and they were going to follow us, and they know nothing about track. So we are going to be famous in the world of 8th grade athletes. I've been playing basketball. right. Thanks, guys.